Sussex's great escape into a new prison of their own making. Meghan and Harry were predicted to make it big in America. Everybody thought this was going to be such a great move for them. But now, nearly 4 years after Megxit, the picture of Meghan and Harry's life in America is not quite so rosy. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the King YouTube channel. In January, we will mark 4 years since Meghan and Harry announced that they were stepping down from their positions as working royals and moving out of the UK altogether. Of course, there had been quite a lot of lead up to that. There was the interview they did in South Africa where Meghan complained that nobody had asked her if she was okay. We knew that they were not happy in their positions, but back then we didn't really realize just how unhappy they were, how many gripes and complaints they had against the royal family and the monarchy as a whole. Since lately Meghan and Harry have been laying low, no doubt trying to avoid the fallout from Omid Scobie's book Endgame, I thought that it would be interesting to take a look back at some of the predictions that people were making about Meghan and Harry when they first moved to America, and compare that with what we see of them today. There was so much hope back then. You remember, we were hearing about how they were going to be these new Hollywood superstars. Everybody was going to want a piece of them. And in fact, they managed to land several high-profile gigs with Spotify, with Netflix, with Penguin Random House. But now, nearly 4 years on, these deals have not quite worked out like the companies wanted them to, because Meghan and Harry have shown time and time again they're not really capable of producing anything interesting. For this video, I decided to take a look back at this article that was published in the Times from Katie Nicholl, The Great Escape, Prince Harry and Meghan's New Life in LA, and I'm going to go through it bit by bit and just analyze what the predictions were and whether or not they have come true. And just a little spoiler alert for all of you, most of the more hopeful predictions absolutely have not come true. Reading this article, it's crazy how much things have changed. It seems like back then it was such an innocent time. Katie Nicholl starts off the article by describing Meghan and Harry driving around delivering food parcels to some of California's most vulnerable people for a local charity called Project Angel Food. Back then, LA was in lockdown, and so they took a trip to Woodland Hills so that Harry could see the house in which Meghan had grown up in, and the school that she had once gone to as well. Now, I know that this is supposed to make us think, oh, how cute that Meghan's showing him all the most important places in her childhood. But what it says to me is that even back then, from the very beginning, this move was all about Meghan. It was all about what she wanted. It was all about going somewhere that was familiar to her. It had nothing to do with making Harry more comfortable or happier in life. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but Katie Nicholl makes this point again when she talks about the decision to move to California and how originally Harry had suggested that maybe they should move to Africa. But see, Meghan didn't want to move to Africa. And then they talked about moving to Canada. But since the Queen had denied their request to be half in, half out royals, moving to Canada was not really an option either. But for Meghan, the plan was always to move to California. She always wanted to get back to the place where she felt at home. According to Nicholl, a friend reported, when that piece of their plan fell away, there was no point in being in Canada. It was never going to be their forever home. The big plan, for Meghan at least, was always LA. And see, that right there just goes to show why this relationship was doomed from the start. Meghan never cared about supporting Harry as her husband. She never cared about supporting his family. And this is an absolute contradiction to what Meghan said in their engagement interview. She acted like she was so excited to become a working royal. Remember, she said that she was planning to hit the ground running. Well, then, when things were not to her liking, she immediately decided to bail. But perhaps the whole plan the whole time was to bail. Most likely, she never intended to stay on as a working royal. That was just what she said because she thought it was the right thing to say. Reportedly, even back in 2018, Meghan and Harry were already looking to buy a second home in California to be closer to the only family member Meghan still speaks to, her mother Doria. But even so, Meghan had only been back to the US a few times since they had gotten married for the baby shower in New York, and then a few months later she came to watch her then friend Serena Williams play tennis at the US Open. I'm not so sure those two women are friends now, though, after that stupid Archetypes interview with Serena where Meghan talked over her the whole time. Maybe they are, but I don't know. But since Meghan and Harry have become so notoriously toxic, something tells me that A-listers like Serena Williams do not want to hang out with Meghan. Another reason that Meghan insisted on moving to California was because she wasn't happy with their accommodations in Britain. She thought Frogmore Cottage was way too small. And Katie Nichol implies that when she writes, the home they are staying in is already a marked upgrade on Frogmore Cottage, the Windsor residence gifted to them by the Queen. Nichol goes on to describe the mansion that Tyler Perry had let Meghan and Harry stay in for a little while. It was a £15 million hilltop mansion, owned by Tyler Perry, sitting on 22 acres of land inside Beverly Ridge Estates, an exclusive gated community, although they had to erect large screens around the garden for extra privacy. Later on, of course, we heard a different story, which I'm pretty sure is the real story, that Tyler Perry basically had to kick out the two of them because Meghan was so horribly abusive to one of his staff members. I mean, wherever she goes, she just can't help herself. She is such a nasty individual. Even in this article, though, Katie Nichol admits that Harry wasn't happy with the move. A friend said it's not easy for Harry. He had a much more established life in England, and he doesn't really know anyone in LA. I imagine he might be feeling a bit of what Meghan felt over in the UK, lonely and directionless. Well, alright, fair. Meghan probably didn't have any friends in the UK either, but at least she and Harry had work. At least she did have her position as a working royal. She could have really immersed herself in helping other people and serving the country. But that wasn't good enough for her. It was never going to be good enough for her. And as far as Harry feeling lonely and isolated in the US back then, well, he still feels lonely and isolated. He has never overcome those feelings. He has never settled. He has never truly made friends. Now, right after Harry and Meghan made it to California, King Charles fell ill with COVID, and reportedly, Harry and William started having regular phone calls to discuss their father's condition, and it brought the two brothers a lot closer. They had had a bit of a falling out before the wedding because William had warned Harry not to rush into things, but reportedly, after that, they had started to rebuild what they once had. Of course, we know now that relationship has completely fallen apart since then, but it's really sad to read this stuff and remember that if Harry had not been such an arrogant prick, he could have actually rebuilt his relationship with his brother, and they could be close today. Speaking about the relationship between William and Harry, a friend said, "I don't think it's returned to everything being rosy, but it is better. Hearing their father wasn't well helped bring them back together, and there is now more regular communication." I don't know about you, but to me this really just goes to show what a horrible influence Meghan has been on Harry. And it also really underscores how Harry has painted himself into a corner now. He has nobody to support him. He has nobody to lean on except Meghan. And Meghan is horribly abusive towards him, so it's not like she's a good support system. It's such a shame that Harry wrecked his relationship with William, because right now he could really use William in his corner. At the time that this article was written, of course, Harry and Meghan still had not found their Montecito McMansion that they would end up moving into. The article does, however, explore some various options that Meghan and Harry are considering, and there is a quote from a friend that really stuck out to me. They are keen to have a bit more space for Archie to have as normal a life as possible. I mean, as normal a life as possible? How is it normal for a child to remain indoors 24/7, never being seen by anybody? No sign whatsoever of children living at that home in Montecito. There are no toys in the yard. Apparently, the place is absolutely immaculate. Nobody ever hears children's laughter. Nobody ever sees Harry taking Archofficial or Invisibed out for a bike ride like he said he was going to do. How is Archie living a normal life? Again, assuming the child is even real. The article also makes some pretty aspirational predictions about Meghan and Harry's social life. Nichol writes that Meghan is already good friends with people like Abigail Spencer, Serena Williams, and Jennifer Garner, and then James Corden is also a friend of the couple, and Oprah, of course, too. Now, currently, maybe Abigail Spencer is still friends with Meghan, but as far as Serena and Jennifer Garner go, I don't believe so. Jennifer Garner, I never heard about her being close to Meghan, actually. I think this may have been made up from the very start. And as for Oprah, well, clearly Oprah was just using them. She got what she wanted out of them, she got some money, and she also ruined her reputation in the process. So at this point, I do not believe that Meghan and Harry can count Oprah as one of their good friends. And then Nichol writes that another local, Ellen DeGeneres, is going to play a role in their lives as well. Okay, well, let's think about how that worked out. Ellen had Meghan on her show, completely humiliated her, made her look like an absolute fool, and apparently Meghan never really forgave Ellen for that. Since then, well, Meghan and Harry did show up to Ellen and Portia's anniversary party, I believe it was, but I don't believe that the couples are really close. I think that was all just PR. And as for Harry's potential friends in LA, well, okay, according to Nicole, Ellen and Harry might be able to talk about African wildlife. And, okay, this is a good one too. Harry has also made friendships among the Silicon Valley crowd, including Leo DiCaprio, a fellow speaker who owns property in LA and is represented by the couple's new PR agency, Sunshine Sags. Oh, Sunshine Sachs, you mean the PR firm that had the good sense to get away from those grifters before the other companies started jumping ship. I mean, apparently Meghan and Harry couldn't even pay them, so they wanted nothing to do with them and dumped them as clients. You mean that, Sunshine Sachs? But boy, were they predicting that Meghan and Harry were going to be a hit in LA. According to Melanie Bromley, the head of news operations for NBC's E! Channel, the LA of today is really less about blingy pool parties and more about intimate gatherings. I am sure their social life will consist of dinner parties with people they can trust and connect with. They are going to be very wary about opening up their social circle too much, as fraternizing with the wrong people has the potential to be hugely damaging to their image and plans. By the wrong people, I can only assume they mean people like Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner. It is funny how nearly 4 years later, Harry and Meghan do not have the luxury of being choosy about who they socialize with in LA. At this point, their approach to friendship in LA is take whatever they can get. They tried their best to endear themselves to people like the Clooneys, real power players in Hollywood, and failed big time. So at this point, they are left with people like the Kardashians. And really, they're lucky that even the Kardashians are willing to associate with them. Looking back, it's so crazy to think how everybody was so excited about Meghan and Harry coming to LA. Andrew Morton wrote, "The couple will be flavor of the year. People will want to see them and know them. They'll find there are a lot of millionaires with private jets who breakfast in New York and dine in LA. That will be the crowd they will be mixing with." Yeah, that's the crowd they wish they were mixing with. Ugh, and again with the private jets, I am so sick and tired of those two trying to hitch rides on private jets whenever they can. But yeah, that is the crowd that they're going to try to be mixing with. Andrew Morton got that much right. I mean, recently, of course, they did manage to hitch a ride supposedly on a private jet flight to Las Vegas to watch Katy Perry perform. But it's still not even clear if they were on the same private jet as the actual A-listers like Cameron Diaz and Benji Madden. To me, it looked like their PR people were trying to spin the story to make it seem like they were on the same flight, when in fact, they were on a completely different plane. According to this article, Meghan and Harry were also looking forward to being treated more kindly in the media. Now that I do believe. Morton went on to say, Meghan will love waking to Good Morning America, where she'll be celebrated rather than hearing Piers Morgan criticizing her all the time on Good Morning Britain. In the beginning, at least, yes, we did see a lot of glowing articles written about Meghan and Harry, especially in the US tabloids, portraying the royal family as backwards and probably racist and cold and cruel towards Meghan. And Meghan is just this proud American feminist who couldn't be stifled by the monarchy any longer. But now, again, nearly 4 years down the road, things are changing. The US media is not being so kind to Meghan and Harry anymore. Even US media outlets are becoming increasingly impatient with Meghan and Harry's complaining, with all their tales of victimhood that we don't quite believe. And at this point in time, even US media outlets that favor Harry and Meghan are finding it very difficult to portray these incessant attacks against Harry's family as anything but petty. As a former courtier said at the time, to progressives, Meghan can be celebrated as a survivor of toxic British snob culture. To conservatives, she has exercised a red-blooded American's right to give the finger to the Queen. They look like they're turning their back on a country that offered them everything. Well, at this point, it is not only conservatives who feel that way. Progressives are becoming ever more aware of the fact that Meghan and Harry did give the middle finger to a country that had offered them everything. I mean, their grievances are just not all that serious, not all that impressive. And at this point, we have heard it all. We've even heard the names of the two members of the royal family who supposedly wondered how dark Archie's skin might turn out to be before he was born. And guess what? The monarchy is still standing strong. Meghan and Harry keep on telling their truth, hoping that it's going to earn them some support and some fans, but it doesn't. In fact, when they reveal their truth, it only makes them look immature and petty and jealous. Instead of swaying public opinion to their side, it has the exact opposite effect. The royal family only looks better. A friend of Meghan also said one of the things she struggled with was not earning an income when she was in Britain. She has always worked, and I think she felt unfulfilled. Having financial freedom was a big part of them wanting to leave. Well, isn't that rich? I mean, that's what she wanted, financial freedom, the freedom to make her own money. Well, isn't it funny now that nearly 4 years later, all their deals basically have fallen through? Meghan has not succeeded in this quest to make money. She thought it was going to be so easy just because she had Duchess attached to her name. Even Morton predicted the glamour of royalty is worth a lot. The big hitters will pay big money for an appearance with Harry and Meghan. And to be fair, in the beginning, yeah, Meghan and Harry did get paid a lot. I mean, they signed those lucrative deals with Spotify, with Netflix. But soon enough, everybody realized all they really had to sell was dirt on the royal family and their truth, which had no connection to reality, and also a bunch of word salad nonsense that nobody was interested in hearing. So now, as we are close to celebrating the anniversary of Megxit in only about a month, we gotta ask ourselves, was it all worth it? But more importantly, Harry and Meghan should be asking themselves that very question. And you, what do you think about Meghan and Harry's big move to America? Has it worked out for them or not? Please let me know your opinion below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to like and share it with anybody else who would enjoy it too. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.